Now, we are going to talk today about you got a new album coming out. You released your debut album back in 2017. Freak was the name of that one. And now coming out in April, we've got Unstable coming. Can you talk a little bit about what it was like putting this new album together compared to that first one? Did you find it was more difficult? Was it a little easier, or was it about the same?
I think it was kind of a mixture of both, to be honest. So, I mean, with Freak, our last album, it was our first opportunity to really kind of think outside of the box in terms of our creativity and our influences and all of that. Like, we were kind of free to just try whatever we wanted. And that album did really well for us. And because of that, it set us up for Unstable to be kind of just continue that process and kind of hone in on that sound that is Tetrarch. Mm-hmm. So it was easier because we kind of had found our sound that we liked and we enjoyed playing and people were really reacting to. But it was also difficult at the same time because you're trying to follow up something that, did well for the band, but you want to make it as good or better and you want that same reaction from people. So it's a little mixture of both.
Okay. And then, when you are, now can you kind of talk about that a little bit, because I feel that as a band, as you move forward with your music, that you want to keep that sound that you established with your first album, like you said, but at other times I think you want to, branch out and try some new stuff. I mean, how do you kind of strike that balance?
For us, it's interesting because I feel like naturally, like as artists, we kind of shift like naturally, like even without trying, like it could have anything to do from like what you've been listening to or just how you're feeling or whatever. So for us, I've noticed that whenever there's any shift in like stylistically or we add in new influences or incorporate, different things that we've never done before, it's kind of like a natural thing. And once it starts happening, we kind of say, oh, that's cool. Let's kind of tap into that a little bit more and see where that takes us. But we always have kind of stayed true to Tetrarch and like what we want to do at the moment. Mm-hmm. And that's always been beneficial for us, just being true to ourselves and what we're feeling and what the messages we want to convey at the time.
Okay. And, I guess another thing that I kind of wanted to touch on, too, in regards to this new album, obviously last year was a bizarre year with the coronavirus pandemic and everything else that happened. Did the pandemic have much of an impact on this new album, or had you basically already started it at that point and it just kind of happened to fit and coincide with some of that music?
So, sorry, go ahead, Josh. Okay, we were writing our record all of 2019. Basically, we wrote all of 2019, and we went to the studio October of 2019. Okay. We spent about 4 months in the studio or so, and we finished the record actually in February of 2020. Oh, okay. So, so it was done, and we were preparing for like a summer release of the record in 2020. But obviously, it was like we shot the music video for the first single, and I think LA shut down like a week later. Oh, really? So we were kind of like, oh boy, like what are we gonna do now? Because we noticed that how much of an impact it looked like it was about to have. Just everything was closing, like everything was being overshadowed by what was going on the news. But we thought about it, and we were like, you know what, maybe now would be a good time to drop this single. Everyone's at home, able to listen and pay attention, and no one's really working like they were. So we took a leap of faith and kind of put the single out there. And to be honest, I say this all the time. It's weird to say, but it's like the pandemic actually we really got ahead during this period. Like, we were able to connect with so many more people than we ever have. Our first single, I'm Not Right, lasted 9 months because it started as a metal track and it ended up crossing over to active rock. And I think it was kind of beneficial for us because there wasn't so much traffic for us to sift through as far as millions of releases and stuff like that. So it's really weird to say that we used the time wisely, I think. And it's crazy to think like how much more we could have even grown if we were able to be on the road. That's the part that was like such a big bummer. But I think we really used the time wisely, and like we had probably one of the biggest years we've ever had as a band last year. It's insane how that happened.
Yeah, that's really interesting because that was actually going to kind of be my next question is, I've talked to bands here over the past few weeks and throughout the summer, and it's been interesting to hear their response in regards to how this pandemic has affected their music, because some have been able to get into the studio and really focus on a new album, and others, maybe release some new music just before the pandemic hit, so they haven't been able to go out and tour and do things like that to really get their name out there. And it seems like that's something that you guys experienced as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we like Diamond said, we were able to use that time wisely and really kind of build Tetrarch's name and awareness around the country and around the world through this. It is unfortunately, we weren't able to tour, but I think one advantage that we did have was by having that album done right before everything hit, like we hadn't released it yet, so there was really no rush for us then to put this album out or to put the single out. We could kind of wait everything out and see like what feels like the right time, when should we put these songs out. And I think we were able to just kind of be very strategic with it. And don't get me wrong, like our strongest asset and what we love to do most is play live. So that was the biggest bummer of 2020. But I think, we're setting ourselves up for, whether it's the end of 2021 or honestly closer to 2022, like we're setting ourselves up for that touring cycle to be really big and just go everywhere. So, I think we were one of the lucky, I hate to say lucky, because like Diamond said, it's been so horrible for not just artists and music, but just so many people. It's affected so many people's lives. But in terms of Tetrarch, it's been, the time period we were able to take advantage of, I guess.
Right. There was a silver lining to it, basically.
Exactly.
Okay, good. Very good. And another thing I wanted to talk a little bit about, too, is I was watching your video for the single You Never Listen. Can you talk a little bit about your inspirations for that particular video? It's very cool. And the song, I really like the song as well. But can you talk a little bit about what it was like putting that video together?
Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah. So that video was a lot of fun. It was, the song You Never Listen itself is kind of, I've said that it's like a song that's about when you're find yourself in like kind of a toxic relationship, whether it's with friends, family, it could be with yourself even, being able to kind of like know when is to say enough is enough and to get out of that situation. So we wanted to be able to represent that in a video, but we wanted to do it in a way that wasn't so obvious. We didn't necessarily want to have a guy and a girl arguing with each other because that would be too easy. We wanted to do something that was kind of cool and made you think. And so when we got with our director, Vicente, about the song and started throwing concepts together, we came up with the idea of a kind of a kid who's maybe dealing with some things internally, with himself, maybe some voices in his head or that he's hearing and he's like trying to get away from and break away from. So we kind of took that idea and ran with it. We had the whole idea of bringing the band into the video and incorporating them in the story, where the kid is like seeing them in his house, but then they're disappearing. It's like, are they there? Are they not? We just wanted to kind of do something a little bit different and unexpected. And I think it turned out really cool.
Right, yeah. And and typically when it comes to music and music videos, like I personally gravitate towards that kind of stuff. Like if it's different and it sticks out to me, then I tend to really listen and tune into that stuff. I feel like it doesn't get lost in the mix, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. It's absolutely. One thing like we've always said is like, when you hear a song for the first time by itself with no video, but then you see the video, a lot of times it like completely can change your perspective of the song or vice versa. And like we wanted because the first time people heard the song for the most part would be with this video, and we wanted to make sure that it kind of set the tone that we wanted it to and resonated in the way that we wanted it to with everyone, but while still leaving it, kind of open to their own interpretation.
All right, cool. Very cool. And, another thing I wanted to touch on, Diamond, is you as I was reading on your website here, you hit a major milestone in your career. You became the first African American female lead guitarist in the heavy metal genre to be featured in a major guitar publication. So I guess, my question for you is, you can tear it up. How did you become so awesome?
Thank you so much. It's crazy because I've always, like, there's a good and bad part to me. It's like when I love something so much, I want to be the best at it always. Like, I'm very devoted to that thing. I love it. I have passion for it, and I want to be the best. Like, not knowing how to do something well is a really uncomfortable place for me. Mm-hmm. But then on the other side of that, when I don't care about something, I really don't care about it. So, but with guitar and when I got into music, and I started playing guitar, it was just one of those things. I never put the guitar down. It was all I could think about. I went to the bathroom, I went to the dinner table. I would play 12, 13 hours a day. And not because in my head I was like, I want to be the best, as much as it was like, I just love doing this. I have so much passion for it, and that I still have passion for it in the same way today. So it's kind of been just like a really coincidental thing. It's like, my love for the instrument and me and Josh meeting and wanting to make this into a career, kind of brought us to this point. But like, it definitely, making history and reaching a milestone like that definitely wasn't something that like I strove for. Mm-hmm. It was like, I just knew my favorite guitar players were like Kirk Hammett and Dimebag Darrell and Slash and all of that. I wanted to be just like those guys. I never looked at myself as any different. Mm-hmm. But obviously I am. So, at some point that just came to light and people started to pay attention to that, which is super cool. But it's really cool to make, some kind of difference just doing something that I love. So I'm really humbled by it, to say the least.
Good. That's awesome. And I guess just the last thing that I have for you guys is if there's anything else that you would like our listeners to know about the band or your music that we may not have already touched on.
We have album Unstable coming out April 30th. We'd love for everyone to check it out. We have 2 singles out from that so far. I'm Not Right and You Never Listen. It's, we consider ourselves to be like a heavy band, but that is kind of like your gateway crossover metal band, when you hear the Metallica and Disturbs and Slipknots and stuff like that, we're heavy, but we have melody and singing and stuff like that. So, I'm sure anyone can find something of ours that they can enjoy, and like we want to reach as many people as possible and connect with as many people as possible.
All right, perfect. And of course, I assume if people want to learn more about you or check out some of your music, they can find you in all the usual places, website, social media, etc.
Oh yeah, we're on everything. If you type in Tetrarch on any platform, you're pretty much going to have us pop right up. I know it's like Tetrarch Music on Instagram, Tetrarch on Twitter, Tetrarch Music on Facebook. So type in Tetrarch, you'll find us.